Hi everyone, I'm Airier, and today we're going to look at Tex Talks BattleTech, the Warhammer. Last time around, my internet died when we got to the Warhammer 8D, so I had to stop right there. Felt like it would go on for another hour because it's just freaking good. So we're going to do it now! If you guys haven't already, there's a link below to the original video. Hit it up. And when you're done, no, seriously, hit it up again because just a bit ago, the Black Pants Legion's YouTube channel got hacked. It's destroyed their analytics. Go help them out. Rewatch a video. Just let them know that, hey, you guys are awesome. It'll help them out. And I don't mean that in the usual, hey, this is YouTube, I should say that. I mean, like, literally, it'll actually help the algorithm with them so their channel can recover from being hacked. So please do that. Let's get started.
I point out the GM280 series reactor because based on my partial data, the GM280 series was made on Talcott. That is what was being made before we, you know, glassed everything that one time we let warship strategic warfare run rampant until we ran out of warships.
Ah, yeah, that one. Also, speaking of Warhammer, or sorry, warships nuking planets to oblivion where the Warhammer was made, I got a link in some of the Discords the Discord I run, and it was to an alternate setting that was fan-based, and I think accepted by Sarna, where it's like, hey, what would happen if warships never stopped being the predominant force? And, dude, for someone who's a space geek, also a mech geek, I'm both, I know, crazy that. That is pretty freaking cool, man. Just that that's out there. It's actually really cool to me.
Talcott is also the place where the Blackjack was being refit for being...
The Blackjack?
Probably the most okayest thing GM ever made. Whether this was an intentional shot at GM by showing that they too were making good heavy mechs still, even after hundreds of years of hell, or that this was instead a partnership in trying to diversify its industrial reach, StarCorps made good decisions throughout the 8D's redesign.
Huh.
They did the smart thing and basically copied the Wolf's Dragoon's own take on the mech, then mashed...
Wait. They copied the Wolf's Dragoons. Is he meaning that as, like, he's just going to do what they do in the future? Or is this so much further on than I thought it was? Because I was under the impression that this was a much earlier time period we're talking about. And I'm pretty sure the Wolf's Dragoons was a clan spec ops, essentially. And... okay. I'm assuming he's just talking about what they later did, not actually what... C3 slave unit? What the hell is that? Extra AI unit or something?
Produced it for public consumption. Some might call this stealing, but all's fair in love and war.
Huh.
The 8D is further
this is much later on.
As an example of how to do business in the inner sphere. Just wait and see how the customer plays with your product. Identify what are the most popular and desirable upgrades or modifications, and then sell it to them. That StarCorps was glacially slow in rolling out new versions of their cash cow shows a keen understanding of market forces, strategic thinking, and warfare doctrines of the inner sphere. Rather than chasing the bleeding edge, StarCorps assumed that tomorrow would be mostly the same as yesterday.
That's not a bad way to look at it, but it works up until a massive paradigm shift does occur. For example, investing in all the warships followed by, okay, now we're doing battle mechs. They're right up until they're wrong, but when they're wrong, they are very wrong. It's kind of like the moment where you're an arrow making company and you specialize in high quality bows and arrows. I'm not sure if that was a thing. And then you suddenly get guns introduced. I know it wasn't sudden. I actually do know it was over a long period of time and that the original guns were... temperamental is a fun word to use. Let's go with that one. But yeah, paradigm shifts are the bigger threat here, but those are more you adapt or you die, and really you're just going to get a different job at that point.
And waited for the checks to clear. I also point out the GM connection here, as GM was the chief logistical support for the Wolf's Dragoons, helping them rebuild Outreach's vast industrial potential in order to gain access to proprietary technology data.
Interesting. So we've moved well beyond the Star League era, even some of the Succession Wars, to the late Succession Wars pre-Clan. Because I don't think the Wolf's Dragoons really were a thing after the Clan invasion. Because I think they just moved on and did other things and went Clan, went unclan, and then were like a Clan exiled. I think part of them were... I don't know much about everything after the... Actually, I know a good bit about Succession Wars, and up until the Clan Wars or invasion, not as much. Huh. Starcore was around a really long time. I knew the Warhammer kept being made. I just figured some other company would take it over at this point. But no, it looks like it's still Starcore. Huh.
And information. Surely the connection between a Wolf's Dragoon's proprietary design refit of the Warhammer ending up in their industrial partners' hands is purely coincidence.
Oh, yes.
Surely coincidence.
They've definitely never done anything like that before.
Maybe it's just the Starcore way. Moving on.
Dickishness for
8R
effectiveness.
is another very common variant of the Mech out there. Some people consider it the most common these days, but I find that's largely survivor's bias and deployment related in terms of what's currently available.
Survivor's bias? Okay, this is probably an obvious question, but I'm thinking survivor's bias is like, okay, so you survived, so therefore what you did is the best, rather than any possibility of just random chance. But if there's a different definition for it, let me know, because I'm just going on what I would assume that entire phrase means, not what I know it means. So I'm just kind of curious about that.
That being said, the 8R is more vanilla than vanilla.
Oh?
It's uncomplex, reasonable, and most importantly, fucking cheap.
What was that last one? The other one's reasonable and not complex. That's basically the Warhammer in a nutshell. Cheap. Okay, reasonably cheap is different than cheap. But how cheap are we talking here? Like 20 million C-bills? 10 million? 15 million? If it's under that, I'm calling bullshit.
With the 8R, you get the upgrades of the intervening years of technological discovery, or in the case of the Inner Sphere, rediscovery. After a certain telecoms monopoly decided to vibe check some weirdos from beyond the Inner Sphere,
this is post
and we
Tukayad.
took their shit in
Or
the
Tekayad.
process. Where was I? Oh yeah, always pay your bill. All right, the
70-ton standard 820. 2 ER PPC Streak SRM6, ER medium laser, ER small laser, 1 machine gun, 16 double heat sinks, and a case 2. A few hundred years later, intended use. Yeah, it just has a little of everything. So it has very good long range, because ER PPCs are just... It's a PPC's long range to start with, and an ER is like, okay, my line of sight is the horizon and sometimes over that. Honestly, if you could factor gravitational divides, you could probably hit over the horizon if you really want to. Because lasers going straight, they don't bend, so details. Honestly, add jump jets, you could probably extend the range if they can make it standard enough, but that would be way too expensive and complicated at that point, in which case you might as well just do warship bombardment. That's a completely different can of worms. But very solid medium range and really solid short range. That said, I don't like small lasers, mostly because if something's that close to me, I effed up already.
8R. It's a boring but common enough refit variant.
Yeah.
It has ER PPCs, it has ER lasers, and is, by most considerations,
Good.
quite survivable, as evidenced by its current commonality. It's a good starter Warhammer these days, with a lot of room to develop a variety of mech
So what are the
warrior skills.
developments?
The next series of Warhammers I want to discuss are what the Taurians do with them. Being a non-Inner Sphere power, their take on the Warhammer is unique, and began with captured variants being pressed into service. The Warhammer...
Okay, this I'm looking forward to. The Taurians, I don't really know a lot about them, just that they were the guys who were like, fuck you, to multiple people invading them, which is pretty cool. But they usually have some very interesting, unique takes on things. And considering earlier in this video, they even went over like them doing that to the Star League, and saying, hey, no. And they eventually lost, but they bled the enemy and said, okay, you're going to take this over our dead bodies and a lot more of your own. I want to see what they did, because they're already much for the, if it works, good. If it works easily, good methodology. And I kind of want to see what they change up in here, this thing.
10 and 11Ts are a refit of
11T?
House Davion's 9D version.
Oh.
Which I am nearly certain to say were acquired not only through commercial means.
Yeah, I'm sure it wasn't
Hey,
BattleTech salvage.
Abandoned weapons are usually free, usually dropped only once, and you cannot convince any army in history that they shouldn't just take them home. The 10T replaces the...
Oh, different art for it. I like it, though. I'm pretty sure this is one of the custom art jobs that Tech's had to hire. The cockpit is well more pronounced than a few of the others, and The nipple lasers are quite large. Let's be honest, I'm not the only one thinking it. You know who you are, Bill. 10T, 70 tons, XL20. Why are there always 280 engines? 2 PPCs, 2 R medium lasers, or ER medium lasers. 18 heat sinks, 3 improved jump jets. I am now I am the master. Also, I can fly. That probably would have helped Anakin a lot. Huh. So it basically cut out most of the medium range, except for the ER medium lasers. Heat sinks, but not double. And jump jets, so it could jump up and move around. So it's really good at repositioning. Has an XL engine, so the heat reduction might be more internal to the engine itself. I'm not sure if that's only a mech warrior aspect, or if that's actually in the main game itself. I don't actually know that one. Overall, though, this is a very interesting design. Huh. It's one I would like. And just regular PPCs, too. Nothing delicate.
Because I think the Taurians prefer to handle
hopefully by this point they're not delicate.
Fairly personal. Or they just like to look the enemy in the eye when they tell them to fuck off. The 11T confirms my theory, at least to my satisfaction, by replacing the ER PPCs with snub-nose variants.
And this is the upgrade. A light ferrofibrous armor, XL280, nice, they kept that. Snub-nose PPCs, 2 light PPCs, 2 ER medium lasers, and an MML5. Is that a... I don't even know what the MML series is. I think I've seen it on mods, but I thought those were just mod-specific weapons. Okay, and 13 double heat sinks and a case system. Surprise, snub-nose PPC. So this is, honestly, I'm kind of surprised they didn't leave it in the jump jets. Just because if you have a snub-nose PPC, range is not your friend. On the other hand, they have light PPCs for just decent FU lasers. Also, ER medium lasers, which are basically large lasers, but smaller.
Ferrofibrous armor, case protection, and an XL engine. And as said, there are numerous double or twin cockpit setups for the Warhammer regardless of end user or original production specs, providing armies the option of having an excellent trainer, if not forward observation platform.
Oh.
Some of these double cockpit versions have notably allowed pilots to focus on their strengths, that is to say piloting or combat, while maintaining a high degree of situational awareness.
So one person's looking around and moving, the other person's shooting.
A Warhammer can outfight any mech in similar tonnage, at essentially twice the manpower risk for combat.
But
ultimately,
that's not what you're really
Warhammer
looking
is
for.
hardest to define through its many variants. The Warhammer has always...
I mean, I know they're talking about double the manpower risk, but... And this could just be my interpretation that's wrong. I always got the impression that pilots are cheaper than mechs. Mechs, you don't screw around with. Pilots, just get them something to drive. So maybe that's actually a pretty good trade-off. Might be very cramped, though.
Been a blank canvas for any number of very stupid things you want to do with it. Unlike many other mechs, this isn't the exception, but the rule in Warhammers.
Oh?
Each house has its own variant, or 4, and every mercenary organization has its own custom take on this venerable monster.
So it's vanilla
And while
plus
it's not a
added
perfect
sprinkles.
weapon system, it most certainly is good enough for most tasks, and the warfighting men and women of the Inner Sphere are only too happy to have them. There are variants for nearly every possible feasible application a mech can do.
Okay, I know this is just tempting fate at this point, but based on what Tech said, is there a melee variant, I can't speak today, variant, that's the word, of the Warhammer? Like, minimal guns, giant-ass sword arm. That seems stupid. Even stupider if they made an actual Warhammer held by a Warhammer in BattleTech. That's so incredibly stupid. I'm sure someone is going to be like, yeah, Airier, yeah, it does. Here's the link to Sarna. I'm fully expecting someone to do that now.
The clanners even refit them for when people get old in their society, so they can ride out and die like heroes from some ancient Terran epic. Because I guess it's cheaper than a retirement home. Also, clanners are weird.
Yeah, also, why would you outfit a Warhammer to be the death bot? I mean, the Funeral Pyro is basically a Warhammer here, but it seems like a solid enough design that might not actually happen. How many times are like, I'm going out to die with honor, followed by, I lived. Oh. Seems a little weird, but okay.
And it's a great mech for just about anyone, as evidenced by the apocalyptically insane builds coming out of Solaris, such as the Lich, or even Natasha Kerensky's own Wild Ride. And while we've examined what makes a Warhammer, let's look at what makes it truly stand out.
I want to see these builds. I want to see them so hard.
Contrast it against its peers. That is to say, mechs designed and built within 2 decades of the Warhammer, to see what we can learn about its competition.
Okay, when he says mechs designed and built within 2 decades, considering the range that the Warhammer served on, I'm going to assume he means very early on at the beginning of the Star League, or not even the Star League, I think it was pre-Star League, wasn't it? No, it was during the Star League when they started throwing money around. So during that early period of BattleTech's history, not the entirety of it, because if you're going just the 2 months of the entirety of it, it's like, okay, so basically every mech. Just going to assume it's the beginning. Unless I'm wrong, which, I mean, it's me, it's very possible.
Firstly, let's go to this guy. The guillotine. Or, if you want to make francophones angry.
That's an... Oh. I thought this was just a really weird awesome the few times it's come up. And I have seen this mech come up in a few bits of art other places. It's just... I don't even know what a Ulsten Prime armor is. A Vox 280. Why is it always 280s? Large laser, SRM6, 4 medium lasers, 25 heat sinks, and jump jets. Like the Baron with legs, but it works. I mean, I like medium lasers. I honestly add a ton of medium lasers wherever I can fit them. But, it only has 1 large laser for range? Really? Okay. I'm sure that never became an issue.
Put on the Van Zandt accent and call it, well...
Guillotine.
The guillotine.
Yes, I did the
guillotine
accent.
Is an interesting machine. It came out at the turn of the century in 2499. And
so it was early on,
yep. Chief heavy mech. It was, well, a heavy mech.
Yeah.
It had a large laser, 4 medium lasers, and an SRM6.
Not bad.
It was mostly average and okay. Based on my evidence, the design notes suggest that it stands out for being exceptionally nimble, which, if war were ballet, would mean something. But war isn't ballet.
But being able to reposition and move frequently and well is actually valuable, though. Like having a heavy mech with a decent weapons platform that can reposition well sounds actually very useful. Unless it wasn't heavily armored. I don't know what this type of armor means. Maybe there's another issue there.
War is, in fact,
delicate.
murder.
That's what it means. It's delicate
the legendary
properties.
Thunderbolt, on the other hand, itself a timeless classic, rolled off the line in 2491. It's a common enough mech these days, despite advances in technology, and is a reminder of what a 65-ton mech should be.
65 tons? Ryerson 150? Engine. A Magna 260, even slower. Large laser, 1 LRM-15, 3 medium lasers, 2 RS, an SRM-2, only 1, and 2 machine guns, 15 heat sinks. There's a reason everyone uses it. It just does a little of everything. I can't stand the SRM-2s, but that's because I have a distinct liking of anything with a 6 or higher. Is it good? Yeah. I mean, just generally SRMs are kind of bullshit. I absolutely love them. Heat is also bullshit for you, but...
and stands easily alongside the Warhammer as a masterful weapon, crafted in a more civilized, if not truly wealthier age. The Koche, if I'm even saying that right, was a Capellan take on trying to make a heavy mech in 2504.
Did they just strap a rocket engine to the left arm and a giant target for the head on a stickman body? It has an autocannon 10, 2 medium lasers. I mean, it has Maximilian 400 armor, which I have no idea what that means. It's Capellan, so it's probably a lie. And a Vox 325, so it's faster. 10 heat sinks, jump jets, intended use. Why? Yeah, why? I'm assuming this is the autocannon 10, but I'm just looking at this and going, no. No, that seems stupid. Maybe it's just an art choice, but I don't remember the autocannon 10s being that wide. Or is that just some weird design and that's not the autocannon? I'm assuming these are the medium lasers. This seems so I look at this and I'm thinking, okay, when is it going to kill itself? Because I don't think there's going to be a problem shooting it. Surviving itself might be the biggest threat. This is a weird design.
4. It was fast but lightly armed. It had an autocannon and 2 medium lasers on a heavy mech. It had decent armor, but only 10
unless
heat
that thing hit
sinks.
200 kph.
By the succession wars, these things had thankfully largely faded into obscurity,
Huh.
where they belong. Against these peers, though, the Warhammer is measured against the cruelty and impact of 500 years of conflict. From the outer periphery to Terra, you can find Warhammers.
Honestly, I'm just thinking at this point, even the very first Warhammer mentioned, I'm looking at this going like, yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be the best armor to be a little undergunned, but you could bring that into any time period and it would just be fine. Probably not the best mech, but it would work. But that was like, even the very first one looked like that. It was just good. It was good enough. Yeah, it's fine. It wouldn't be the strongest, wouldn't be the fastest. Probably wouldn't be the first thing shot either because it wouldn't be the biggest threat. But you could bring the first one, and I'm just looking at some of the other designs that Tech just brought up, and I'm thinking, oh, no.
From noble-born tyrants to jumped-up privateers, you can find Warhammers. It is no major exaggeration to think that whole campaigns, if not wars, have been fought and won with just Warhammers for this reason. It's a damn fine mech, and it's good enough for most things. That and it being cheap is why everyone seems to still have so goddamn many of them.
It's such a good mech, too. And that was more of the Warhammer. I just really like that. And that last one, the Taurian one, Taurian, I keep going Mass Effect when I say that name. It's going to happen. I can't stop it at this point. I like that thing. I want that thing. I would have put jump jets on that thing because surprise snub-nosed PPCs, man. There is nothing better than that. That is an absolute joy to do. Is it good for your heat? Honestly, if they have decent heat management and they're just good at doing it, yeah, sure. I mean, if you know how to just alternate shots rather than just going alpha constantly, which I definitely don't do. But this was good. I love this. I just, how do I need to do custom builds on the tabletop now? I don't even know how to do that yet correctly. Incorrectly? Yeah. In games? Yeah. Correctly on the tabletop? Yeah, I'm getting there. Yeah. So if you haven't already, there's a link below to the original. I already said why you should hit that up this time around. Please do that. And next time around, we'll probably finish up the Warhammer because this is so freaking cool, man. And then we'll move on to the Charger, which isn't as cool as the Warhammer, but that's because the Warhammer is one of the best mechs I know about altogether. Although I could be surprised. So I want to see what Tech says. And honestly, him tearing apart mechs is probably just as much fun as him going really into lore, which is one of the reasons I like BattleTech to start with. So if you haven't, again, link. I know I'm shilling it a lot today. Please do it, though. Thanks. I'll see you guys in the next one. Adios.